Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to TraderMerlin Show. I hope it all goes well today. I did some research and tried to figure out what's going on with my connections. Everything looks fine, but you never know. Last couple shows, we've had some issues, and I will turn on some lights here so you don't have the bad background. Yeah, last time we had a couple issues, so hopefully I can fix all that. Anyway, John, have a safe flight. It's on the taxiway. Where are you headed today, John? Headed to Las Vegas, someplace fun, I hope. Anyway, welcome everybody. As you saw from the headline graphic today, I was struggling on what to do for the visual for today. It was either going to be about marijuana or it was going to be about Walmart, which both had stellar days. And I thought probably the biggest, more impactful piece long-term was going to be cannabis. So that's our news for today. It says, big day for marijuana. And I know that Mike and a couple others here who always ask me about cannabis stocks. This may be that point where you start to load up on cannabis stocks. And the reason is simple. There's always been this overhang of government regulation, of prohibitionism, of the fear-mongering that cannabis destroys your lives and it ruins your brains and you're going to turn into a walking zombie with an axe and start killing people on the streets. Those are all false narratives from cannabis. And what's interesting is over the past few years, there's been a tremendous amount of evidence and data collected that shows it's actually a net positive, not only from a health perspective, but also from revenue and taxes, which of course is a good one. So the news, which we talked about a couple weeks ago, was that there was a rumor that the Department of Justice was going to declassify cannabis. And what I read before was going to go from Schedule 1, which is like, the hardest drugs you can imagine, drop that down to level 2, which is still bad. The proposal, which is presented today, which now has a 60-day comment period, so it's going through now. Basically, it says they have 60 days to comment on this bill, which will drop cannabis from Schedule 1 down to Schedule 3, which is far lower as far as a jail time and legal ramifications if you're caught in possession, etc. And to me, it's that first step really towards, or maybe the second or third step, towards federal legalization overall. Now, of course, this was one of Biden's platform topics nearly 4 years ago. And of course, you save those things that you say you're going to do to the very end. So everyone goes, see, they did it. Either way, I think it's a pretty good thing. And when we look at some of these MJ stocks, or MJ is the one that I would be trading just because I don't know enough to go into each one of them individually. We saw the big surge happen based off the talk track of it. I think this is actually the day back here was our show we did on April 30th when we had that nice big surge. Well, today the documentation actually went through. And now there is a comment period, which again will go 60 days. Now, why is this so good? Why would now be the time maybe to buy into some of these cannabis stocks? They've been absolutely destroyed. I mean, we can bring up Cronus, as C-R-O-N, right? I'll go longer. Let's go weekly here so we can see the bigger picture. These charts have just been beaten down for a long time. And as I've said over and over again, you're kind of just waiting for it to start to trend and move back up and make a new high. Should be smoking pot now as we watch your show. It might make my show better, Les. If you're really high, it probably makes the show that much better. You'll see through all the mistakes. I won't be, unfortunately. I don't do that stuff anymore. But if I needed it for medicinal purposes, I would not hesitate to smoke, but I don't need it for medicinal purposes. So there's Cronus. We have Tilray. T-L-R-Y. What was it? T-I... Let's go Tilray. Oh, I did have it right. T-L-R-Y. I mean, this is equally as bad. This thing, split adjusted, was up, around $300, and here we are trading at $2 for Tilray. Terrible. You had, there's so many. Aurora. I always forget the ticker. ACB. I mean, again, the picture just looks apocalyptically bad for Aurora Cannabis, which if you do split adjusted going back into October of 2018, split adjusted high of $1,500, and here we are, now down at $7. So this is an industry that I think is going to go through some serious changes here, and I'll explain those in a second. MJ is the only one that I would go into because it's going to be diversified, and I'm going to reduce my risk exposure to one particular company. And that's just me. I know some of you are much better at breaking down the fundamentals, looking at what these companies do, specifically targeting, let's just say, niche markets within the cannabis industry. Great. I think there's going to be great opportunities, and here's one of the big reasons why. Right now, these companies, when they pay federal taxes, are on something called 280E. And from all that I've been reading, it basically gives an effective tax rate for these businesses of about 70%. And by declassifying this and making it much more, getting it out from that tax bracket, which may happen, that means more profit for these businesses at the baseline. So maybe it drops from a 70% effective tax rate down to 50 or maybe even lower than that. Now all of a sudden you start to open the doors to some real profit gains for these companies, maybe some reinvestments of those profits. And then on top of that, you have the potential down the road, not immediately, but down the road of it opening up to the banking system, so therefore they can be getting loans and funding at a much cheaper rate on the up and up, whereas now not going to be able to go, a cannabis shop's not going to walk into Bank of America and say, hey, I'd like a business loan. Bank of America's going to go, no, we don't want to get involved with that because of the federal and state issues, depending on where they're at. So those charts are, overall, appallingly bad, right, Big Eb? But what do I always say, Big Eb, and others here? I say that the trend is your friend until the bend at the end. Well, I feel like it's bending. I've had this line drawn on MJ, which is $4.83. I think we drew it back here in January of last year and said, once we get above that, that would be starting to make some new highs. And yes, it got down to 264. Look, if MJ gets above $5, I might actually go out and start loading up on some MJ here. It feels like it's starting to turn the corner. How low can it go when you have all of this new positive things happening in the cannabis industry space? Now, this does beg the question as to what do each of these businesses bring to the table, right? Some are in the production, some are in the storage, some are in the packaging, some are in distribution. There's all sorts of facets to the cannabis industry. All in all, I think that this is a very big day because, and rightfully so, it's going to get descheduled or drop down in its scheduling to a, you can't go and buy it at the at your 7-Eleven yet. That might happen down the road, but at least it's no longer, hey, you got caught with a joint, you're going to spend 5 years in jail. That's just stupid compared to fentanyl. Again, if you're trafficking fentanyl, you should be executed. Done. Just make it easy. We will have no fentanyl problem. If you're caught with fentanyl, you get executed. Well, do you think we'd have a fentanyl problem? We probably would. But the people selling that fentanyl when they get caught, disappear, beat it. What? I thought you don't invest in penny stocks, Merlin. Okay, good point, Oliver. Let me address that. I like that. That was good. So I don't like penny stocks. Penny stocks are penny stocks for a reason. They're usually garbage companies, and it's on one of two spectrums. You either have a company that had a great idea in the past and just can't make it work, and they're fizzling out. That's the chart that we see with the cannabis stocks here. Other penny stocks are ones that are just starting out trying to get their feet going, and they got a new product and they're building and building and building, and usually that's reflected by good business fundamentals. A lot of these cannabis stocks, I think, were the previous one, which they have a great idea, but now you have something impacting their business which maybe they didn't plan for, and that is mass saturation. Now, I'm not sure if anybody here has seen the TV show on Netflix. It's a series it's pretty intense. It's a very interesting series called Murder Mountain. Excuse me, something stuck in my throat. If you haven't watched Murder Mountain and you are interested in the cannabis industry, it does a good job of explaining how in Humboldt County, cannabis growing in California has been illegal really forever, right? And of course, they dropped that a few years back. And when that veil of persecution was dropped, and it said, okay, you can now legally grow in the eyes of the state. You have to file all these permits and get all these things done, and we have to come by and verify and audit and control everything. And a lot of people that were in Humboldt said, finally, great. We've been doing it on the black market forever, so we will now go through the proper channels. What's happening is a lot of those people that are trying to go through the legal proper channels of filling the applications, getting the permits, paying all the fees, their business isn't surviving because it's just so cost prohibitive to go through all that regulatory BS that they're kind of going back to doing the black market piece. The other part of it is it brought in kind of the organized crime side of thing, really the big money coming in, building these farms, and some of the stuff that goes on behind the scenes was downright pretty bad. Murder Mountain was a very interesting series. Anyway, what I think happened is you had so many people come into the marketplace. I mean, I know a bunch of people personally that got into the cannabis growing industry, and when you look at the price you could sell a pound of really good cannabis for, back in the 90s, man, you're getting to $4,500, almost $5,000 a pound. You get to 2,000, it's like maybe 3,500 to 4,000. Once the legalization stuff happen, you're talking like $1,000 a pound or less. So the profit margin has just evaporated for a lot of these growers. And ultimately, when you have your profit margins evaporate like that, your chart looks like this. Now, the question is stabilization, right? Do we see this stabilizing and the impact of federal relaxing of some of the laws, or maybe changing those laws to benefit? To me, that does speak volumes to this. And Oliver, this is one example where I would actually go with a penny stock, because it's an industry I don't believe is going to go away. Does anybody in here, and don't worry, I'm not going to chastise you or anything, but does anybody in here believe that all of a sudden the government will flip and go the other way and become more aggressive against cannabis? Does anybody think they're going to become more aggressive against it? Right? When you look at momentum, it's been momentum for about the past 15 years has been slowly loosening the reins on cannabis stocks and marijuana. And this is a pretty big step to loosen them even further. As long as we don't see huge upticks in crime or, literally walking zombies or people just destroying their lives with cannabis, again, I'm in the camp that I believe cannabis is far safer and better and healthier for you than alcohol. Alcohol, I think, can really do far more damage. Yet I don't see them repealing that, right? Unless you're maybe in Utah. Majority, no. Yep. Lisa says, no way, they finally figured out they can make money on weed. Right. And I think that's another big part of this. I think that the big part of it is they have a huge source of tax income now. So let's legalize it. I mean, it's kind of a win-win-win. It's a win for people who believe in holistic medicines and believe that they can take care of their medical issues with cannabis versus some pharmaceutical synthetic that's going to probably do more damage and get them addicted and be far worse. So you've got the homeopathic people are going to do better. You have a business sector which brings jobs to whatever respective state you're at, whether that's manufacturing of the actual cannabis and growing it in warehouses. Then you have all the fertilizers, you've got all the materials and packaging and all that stuff that goes along with it. You're talking job creation. And of course, any president wants job creation. More job creation, the better, because the economy will typically become more robust in that environment as long as we have people to fill those jobs. So from a jobs perspective, it's great. From a health perspective for homeopathic people and just people wanting to try alternate solutions to pharmaceutical drugs, I think it's great. But then you have the tax side. We have the largest deficit we've ever had in the history of mankind. Maybe we can pay that down just a little bit. Most politicians vape or smoke anyway. Yeah, everybody's smoking nowadays. I will say I am very happy. I don't like cigarettes. I've always hated the smell of cigarettes, and you're having a nice dinner. When I moved to Italy, smoking was legal in the restaurants. So you're this nice, linguine alle vongole, mamma mia, che buona l'aroma, che profuma. And you're loving the smell, and all of a sudden the guy next to you just blowing a Marlboro Red in your face. Oh, it drives me nuts. It's horrible. Made me want to vomit. The vape pens are better because now I smell pineapples and blueberries and candy, cotton candy, whatever the garbage is they're selling to people. But, I'd rather have the vape pens, even though I think they're both bad for you. And vape pens are untested, but we'll see. Okay. Can't stand the smell. You can drink it or eat it. Yep. You have all sorts of different ways to ingest it's not just THC anymore. It's THC, it's CBD, it's CBDN. It's all these different compounds that do perform specific medical functions. And, one day I would like to bring on somebody who's a legit scientist. I have a bunch of stoner friends who would think that they're scientists with their knowledge of cannabis, but I'd much rather see somebody who's like a legit doctor, scientist, who can break down all the chemical compounds and explain why they're so good, what they can do for you, and what are the harms they bring as well. Imagine if we found out that Biden smokes weed. Would that surprise you, Oliver? Let's be honest here. Would that surprise anybody in this room if Biden smokes weed? Honestly, I've seen Biden's presentation sometimes, and I'm like, that guy's got to be high. He's shaking hands with nobody. He's talking to himself. I mean, when I used to smoke, I'd sit on the couch and, that sounds like what I would be doing. I think everybody here would imagine that Joe Biden, if you had to choose between yes and no that Joe Biden smokes, I think most of us would go on the side of, yeah, he probably does. Yeah, John, on an airplane, probably not a good idea for people to be smoking, but at least the workers on that plane. Okay. Biden doesn't need a donor. See, we believe he's always slow. Maybe he's just slow because he's stoned all the time. That could be it. Anyway, all right, let's stop bagging on poor old Joe Biden. Anyway, that's, to me, a huge step forward. I'll be watching this one closely. Again, you guys talked about MJ. You also brought up another one, which we could look at here as well, which was MSOS. Okay, this is just another ETF in this space. They both look pretty bad. This one is actually looking better. If you go back to what I classify, me personally, as something of interest, notice what's happened since the dead low here in August of 2023. It started to make a higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. And we're starting to see that stair step up. To me, that's the time when you're looking to be buying in something for a longer term trend. So yes, MSOS could work. I don't know the fees associated with this one. I have to check out the fees, which I'll do outside this program, so I don't waste our time doing that one. But yeah, this one could be just as good as MJ from a long-term investment perspective. It actually looks a little bit better, but either way, I think there's plenty of opportunity. All right, let's see what else we got. Oh my God, how many of us were smoking weed in the 70s and 80s, or even now? Probably quite a few, right? It's funny because when I was smoking back, when I was in my 20s, it was recreational. It was just, relax, chill out. I must admit, those who have known me maybe, let's say, 15, 20 years ago, maybe more than that, I was an extremely creative person. My brain was always designing things and thinking about construction and building costumes and just, I had a little house in the country and I was always building things. I loved it. And I actually do believe that a large part of my creativity and my motivation to do these really cool projects was because at the time I was smoking weed. And for some reason I had this really weird anxiety that happened to me and I just stopped. And it's weird, my creativity has literally just fizzled out. This is my biggest creative outlet. I build content for different companies and that's fun, but I like projects on my own, building costumes, and who knows, maybe I'll try it back up again and see if I freak out, but I don't really see the harm in it. Anyway, we'll move on to that one. The next, they will legalize magic mushrooms. They're all natural too. They're already working on it, Lisa. I think Oregon already has magic mushrooms legalized. See, mushrooms are different. Anybody here has ever done them, you know that when you take magic mushrooms, depending on how much you take it, it alters your perception and can alter your reality a little bit. So that to me is a bit more dangerous. I'd much rather have someone who was, took a hit off a joint behind the wheel of a car versus someone who took some mushrooms behind the wheel of a car, because they're seeing stars and tracers and unicorns and rainbows and all kinds of weird crap. Probably not the best. However, from a medicinal perspective, there is stacks of data that show from psychiatrists that the impacts of medicinal mushrooms, psilocybin, those can have fantastic impact on things like PTSD, anxiety, stress, and helping people kind of get grounded and figure out personal issues. But that is under the guidance of a medical professional that can really help you fix those problems. Again, I think there's a lot of substances out there that used in the right way have tremendous benefits. However, used incorrectly could have serious adverse effects and harm other people around you. That's the person I that's why the mushroom one, look, I went to a Fish concert and I'm sure there, out of 18,000 people, probably at least 1,000 were on mushrooms, probably way more than that, and nobody hurt anybody. They were all having a good time. However, those are all professionals. Let's see, Real must have saw unicorns. No, if I saw unicorns, I probably would keep on going. It's just, anxiety just got the best of me. And for anybody who struggles with anxiety, it's a legit problem. I know some people would just shake it off like, oh yeah, don't be anxious, no big deal. When you have some of the panic attacks that I've had, they literally send you to the emergency room. It's a tough one to deal with. But, you learn about it, you get better, and you work on these things. And again, things like psilocybin can actually help. And, if you look at ecstasy, MDMA, it was actually being used for marriage counseling because it got people to express their emotions together and resolve a lot of maybe problems between husband and wife or whomever. So in a controlled environment, I think it could be good. All right. No more Friday show with whiskey. Let's change it to pot. I don't think you'd want me to do that. One day I might surprise you, right? When we get full legalization, maybe I will, but I don't really smoke anymore, so yeah. You seem very happy today. Why? No, I'm just in a good mood. I tell you what, guys, this is kind of like the highlight of my day. I love coming and do these, even though we really haven't talked markets. We're just talking kind of broad investment thoughts. There's Mike. He says, finally, I'm going long tomorrow. I'm all in. Maybe not long, all in, okay? Scale in, buy some, and we start making some new highs. Maybe buy that breakout and buy that little pullback there. But again, if this trend does do what it feels like it's wanting to do, which is start to make some higher lows and higher highs, then that could translate into bigger profits down the road. But this, just because this is happening, this big day today, as I have this sign here as clickbait, just because this is happening doesn't mean that it's going to happen overnight, right? Again, there is a 60-day comment period. So for the next 60 days, I expect propaganda to be played. I expect there to be, the reefer madness type propaganda that says, "Oh God, all the school shooters, they must have been smoking weed. That's what, if you smoke weed, you're gonna be a school shooter." They'll spread that type of narrative, which may not be true at all, but people will latch on to that, and that may skew their votes. So you're gonna probably see a lot more ads, pro and anti-cannabis, in the next 60 days. Now, hopefully, we have the right lobbyists in Capitol Hill, which will make these elected officials that are going to vote on this one much more informed about the topic. And, there are certain parties that will say, nope, no matter what, I don't care. Oh, nope, I was told this is bad. You're not going to convince me. And others who will listen to it, and hopefully those are the ones we have in office, the ones that listen. Get Elon Musk. Elon Musk is smoked on Joe Rogan. That was pretty funny when he's lighted up a joint on Joe Rogan. Bring on guests who smoke. I brought on quite a few guests who smoke, but we're not going to smoke on this show. Most people kind of keep it in the dark. It's interesting how I like to think I'm successful at what I've done. I think I'm really good at what I do. But if I was to advertise that I smoke weed all the time, there will be people who liked me before who will dislike me simply because I would say I smoke. I'm sure there's some people here that dislike me a little bit because I drink whiskey on Fridays, right? You're probably like, I don't drink, or maybe have had a family issue with alcohol, and you look at me negatively because I am now aligned with whiskey on Fridays, That's the nature of the beast. So a lot of people that I'll bring on the program aren't going to grow too much into their personal preferences and things like that. But yes, we've had plenty of guests on the program who've smoked. All right. Sorry, let's get back on track here. So a couple different things. First off, I think you got some good days ahead of you for cannabis. It's just starting, okay? It hasn't really proven it. We haven't seen the new highs being put in, but we are right about there on MJ. You guys had MSOS. I think MSOS has actually already given you the buy signal because it's a break above this high here. So MSOS is right at it right now. And again, if you want to go individual securities, there are plenty to choose from, but they're still looking rather weak. So old fashions tomorrow? Maybe. Old fashioned. See, the old fashioned requires me to manufacture them. Whiskey's great because I just throw in an ice cube, fill up whatever flavor I would like for the day, and go for it from there. Yep. Religion, politics, pocket divided. Not only that, did you guys see the Harrison Butker, the kicker for the Kansas City Chiefs? Did you see his commencement speech at that university? That guy had no enemies in the world. None. And then he makes that speech, and immediately he's getting even more raving fans because of certain ones that believe that. And the other side of the party, or people despise him and can't stand him and don't even want to see him on the field now because of his stance. So for the most part, we shouldn't express our thoughts towards that type of stuff, Margaret. You're right. Religion, politics, and pot. If you break it down to the very basic core of everything, we're all human. Period. That's the only thing we can prove is we are all human. We're all in this giant spinning ball revolving around in the galaxy, right? That's all we really know. So we should be treating each other better. Anyway. Let's go into what happened out there with earnings today. I will bring up your Walmart poster. This is AI's version of Walmart. Apparently everything is blue. I don't know why the signs look like they're in like Egyptian writing or something, but hey, it's AI. It's not really good with words. So Walmart's earnings came out today. They, as you can see here, they beat earnings. Good earnings for Walmart. They were expected to make 52 cents per share. They came out at 60 cents per share, so a slight beat there. That's one of the only few big names that reported today. You do have Applied Materials. They reported, although they were down just about 1% on their earnings, even though they beat earnings by 12 cents, which is really good. And that's pretty much it. Baidu is another one that reported earnings today. They're expected to make $2.30 per share. It came at $2.76, so their beat percentage was much better than AMAT or Walmart, but they didn't get the follow through. So let's go look at those charts right now. Baidu, BIDU. Cannabis advertising rules change. The FCC might vault sales as well. I know DraftKings commercials. Yeah, right, DraftKings. It's kind of weird seeing now gambling sites on basketball, like every commercial break, or even sponsoring the NBA. Is like, you know what, that you might not want to have gambling so prolific. You know, Pete Rose is banned from the Hall of Fame in baseball. He's one of the greatest baseball players ever. He bet on his team to win, and he's now blacklisted from the Hall of Fame, can never play baseball again. You know, we saw it with Shohei Ohtani. Oh, I didn't know. Come on, man. $10 million is missing from your account in gambling debts and gambling losses, and you didn't know about it? I'm pretty sure if anybody in here lost $1,000 out of their account, you look at your checking like, wait a minute, that's not right. I have another $1,000 there. Try $10 million. You didn't know? Come on, man. I'm not buying it. He's a great baseball player, but you ain't fooling me with that one. Anyway, yes, we will see the rules change, and you'll have, you know, pretty soon you have cannabis ads, and yeah, it'll help boost sales for sure. All right, so there's Baidu. I actually been wanting to buy Baidu just because I like what Baidu does. I'm actually more of a fan of Alibaba, but Alibaba's just been getting crushed. You know, this is on a weekly time frame. Let me switch it down to a daily. I've done a lot of business on Alibaba. I think it's a fantastic site. I mean, if you want to do business in China, this is such an easy way to get your feet wet with finding vendors and distributors and manufacturers. It's great. I've done a lot of really cool things with them. So that was Alibaba. Here's Walmart. Walmart looking fantastic. I mean, jumping up to $64 per share. I'll swap this out with a weekly time frame so you can see where we're at because it is fantastic. I'm not sure why I have these lines drawn here. We will get rid of all of that. Let's see, remove all 19 drawings on my chart. Anyway, there's your Walmart all-time highs, absolutely smoking to the upside, ripping on today's earnings on a huge gap up. We'll see if this does retrace a little bit, but all in all, it was a fantastic day for Walmart on their earnings, one of the bigger names for the week. Of course, next week we have NVIDIA, which will be equally as exciting. Now, the other one I want to get to, I couldn't come up with a good graphic. The Midjourney doesn't do a good job when I say, like, breaking through all-time highs. I just put a stock chart breaking through all-time highs, breaking through a ceiling, and it did this. It looks more like a wall. So I wanted to bring this one up because when you look at these indexes today, here is your S&P, which broke through all-time highs yesterday and all-time highs again today. Same NASDAQ. Right, your all-time highs again, and then the indexes. Here's the Dow. It was just such a huge number, 40,000. The Dow broke 40,000 today, hit an intraday high of 40,051. Again, you know, 40,000 is a pretty significant number. Never been done. It's a whole number psychology. But notice what happened at the end of the day, folks. I've been waiting for a little bit of a pullback here in the market. I'm being patient. I'm waiting for things to come to me. They have not. I made no intraday trades today. But I did a couple really good ones yesterday. Notice the candle on the Dow today. That is about as good as a shooting star as you're going to get. Now, what we would love to see, I'll add on volume here at the bottom. I'd love to see with highly elevated volume. Unfortunately, it doesn't have that. That would make it perfect, right? What about the NASDAQ? Right, here's your NASDAQ. Another shooting star. Volume is, I'll call normal. So it would be called an inverted hammer, Oliver, or a shooting star. S&P, though. I mean, you look at this, it closed just about near the session lows, smaller topping tail. You know, for me, this is a pretty simple one. You guys might remember back here when we had these two, I was ready to short. I did not get my opportunity during regular market hours. It did during pre-market on that PPI announcement, but I did not make those trades. If you look here, let me dial my volume now. I think I'm peaking a little bit on my volume. Apologize for that. I have gremlins in my computer. It feels like they just reset some of my settings, which drives me nuts. I don't know why. Anyway, I'll remove that little double shooting star there. Let's get rid of that bad boy. Click there, get rid of it. Yes, I had an alert set on that one too. And then we have this bad boy here. I'm going to take all these lines off, and I'm going to add one tomorrow right to the low of this S&P. All right, and then I'm going to go here to the alert icon, and I'm going to add an alert on that one and just say, look to short. All right, so I've got an alert on this one now that says look to short. This will pop up on my screen. We'll be up early tomorrow to make sure I am here for this one. And what I want is I want it to open up above 53.15 and a half and then start to break down during regular market hours. And given the move that we've had today this week, Would not surprise me to see it come. I hope it does, because I'm ready for a nice little pullback here and make a nice short trade on that one. So that's probably the most exciting part for me for tomorrow, is watching this S&P. We'll see if we can get that thing to roll over a little bit and dip down. It is a shooting star formation, which is one of my personal favorite ones, and we'll see if that comes to fruition. Only difference is I would love to have seen much higher volume here, but we didn't get higher volume today. Okay, so let me just run through our top 10 then, since we're at that point. Bitcoin selling off a little bit. Not that big of a deal, down 1.58%. The good news is it's holding, right? We came right back up to this high here that goes to April 23rd. So it's been making these lower highs, lower lows, and I still am biased to the downside, but we've come back up to a level. Let's just put it right here. I'll move this down. We're coming back up into this 67,295 mark, which has been difficult for it to break for the past month. If we can get above that, then my sentiment will change. My sentiment will become neutral at this point. If we can get above this downtrending line, then I'll become more bullish on it, and maybe we see the final turn here and this thing starts to move up again. I was telling everybody that my belief is that after the halving, we would probably see about 3 months of sideways to down action in Bitcoin. And that would put us, if you go 3 months from the halving, I'll put a vertical line on when the halving happened, which was April 19th. So you go April, May, June. That should be 1, 2, 3 months brings us to July 19th. So right, Friday, July 19th. I think we'll go sideways to down up until that point there. Right? That seems like the most logical thing based off historical 4-year cycles. If that does pan out, then great. If not, we'll readjust my thought track on it. But I do believe you'll see this thing start to move to the upside here. Getting into the second half of this year is when we'll really start to see the moves, which is going to be music to everybody's ears here. Margaret says, have you been to Macau? I have not. I have not been to Macau. I would love to go to Macau. I like to play blackjack a little bit too much, so I want to stay away from Macau. My last trip to Vegas, I actually did not do well. I've done pretty well in my life playing blackjack. This time in Vegas, man, I just could not get any streaks going. Nothing got moving, but I'd like to go to Macau. I'd like to go visit more in China. The one thing I'm regretting that I haven't done a lot of is really travel. I am going to be gone. I'll be traveling June 3rd through 11th, so it's going to be a whole week without me. I'm going to be on a cruise ship to Alaska. Should be pretty fun. Me and my pops and my brother are going to go to Alaska. So, see how that goes. All right, so I did the 3 big things. We talked about cannabis, we talked about Walmart, and we talked about the all-time high here for the Dow, which is great, 40,000. We're walking through Bitcoin here, which again I think will drift down for a little bit, unless I'm proven wrong. I still hold the belief we're going to see it slowly go down. Switch to craps, yeah. I like the simplicity of blackjack. I like counting numbers. Russell 2000 down 0.66%, not at an all-time high. Got a ways to go till the Russell gets there. I mean, long way to go before we get to that all-time high, but still showing the positive move that the rest of the markets have. Today was only down 0.66%. You had gold down 0.39%. I'll zoom in here a little bit to our gold chart. We are coming back into those all-time highs. I think you'll have a little bit of difficulty right around that 2420 mark. S&P, we already talked about that with the shooting star for tomorrow. All-time intraday highs today. Fantastic. Your all-time closing high was yesterday. We'll see if we get a pullback tomorrow. I think you will. Your NASDAQ 100, same picture as the S&P. Shooting star, all-time highs, looking great. So what else is to say there? Now today, you actually had a nice move up in that 10-year. This has kind of been disturbing because we keep breaking these lows, and right now, Big Ev's probably getting excited because that 3.99% is looking much more realistic, right? You got all the way out till that vertical line. So anything can happen between now and then. So it would be, be surprising for me if we got below 3.99%, but we'll see. Either way, one of us is getting a beer. All right, your second place finisher, the dollar index. Now, we didn't talk about the dollar index the other day. You guys remember, I'd drawn this line on this 104.26 before it actually fell this far, expecting that if we broke this level right here at 105, that we'd probably fall down towards that 104 mark, and that's that 104 and a quarter. We hit that one yesterday. We've rallied above it today. Your next major issue is getting below these lows here, which is about 103.90. So not looking good for the dollar index, very contrary to what I believed was going to happen. And of course, that's the nature of the markets. Everything works until it doesn't, and the markets are there to prove you wrong on a regular basis. And number one, crude oil. I still am long my UCO, so I'm still I'm selling half of it. I sold half today. I'll show you that one as well. This, again, not much to speak of here. It still feels like it's basing, and I am relying on this yellow box to kind of hold us up here. If that fails, then, you know, there's definitely some big downside movement for crude oil. Now, UCO, I had an order, a limit order to sell half my position today. Gotta love that. Look at this yellow box. It's going to crack you up. So I broke this down to a 15-minute time frame, and my zone was at 31.89. Our intraday tail today hit 31.89. It literally hit my exact price where I had my order, but I did not get filled. I had 1,000 shares I was selling out of that. So as it drifted down near the close today, I just dumped 1,000, cut my risk exposure on this one because I do have some pretty good gains that I don't want to lose at all. I mean, it was a really nice, just 2-day trade. So fantastic on that UCO one. So that one, I got half left. I got just still another 1,000 shares. And that is kind of it for our markets. So let's see. What is Chio says, what's your opinion on Sol cryptocurrency? I'm a fan. I am a fan. I like what they do. I didn't like them a year and a half ago, but things change. They've modified things. They've worked on their flaws, and they're making it better and better and better. The big issue for anybody here who's in the crypto space is you have all of these layer 1 technologies. And a layer 1 technology is simply the base layer blockchain that allows everybody else to plug in. Again, like the electrical grid I was using as an example the other day. So you have things like Ethereum, Cardano, Solana, Avalanche, Sui, Aptos, Algorand. I mean, there's dozens of them. Well, which one's going to be the leader in the space? My guess is we'll probably have 2 or 3, in a few years that are they run the whole show. The big challenge for Ethereum is that Ethereum has a scalability problem. You can't bring in all the transactions that they want to bring in without bogging down the network. So they recently did an upgrade, Duncan upgrade to the network, which allowed for more layer 2 transactions, which is dropped the fees. The transaction costs in Ethereum right now are significantly lower. They're very low compared to historical norms. But what they need to do is they need to change the scalability protocols using sharding and ZK rollups to allow them to do 100,000 transactions per second. To do that, they need development and they need time. While they're doing that, doing 15 transactions per second, you have these other blockchains like Sui, 100,000 transactions, Aptos, 150,000 transactions per second, Solana, 60,000 transactions per second. They're running circles around Ethereum. The challenge for them is they need to get the projects that are on Ethereum, because that's where all the big projects are at, to migrate over. And it's happening. You're seeing more and more move over to Solana and to other blockchains that offer much more flexibility, cheaper commissions, maybe better programming and things like that. So I am a fan of Solana. It's not my number 1 holding. It's right now, it's number 3 or 4 in my portfolio is Solana with regards to valuation. So yeah, I'm a fan. Okay, how much time we got? Oh boy! Let's go and run through what's going to happen for tomorrow. Not the most exciting day tomorrow, right? We had our good stuff. We had the PPI, we had the CPI, we had Jerome Powell, we had other things going on. Tomorrow, you have for the United States just 2 FOMC members speaking in a CB leading index. So it's a breather. It's going to be quiet. Now, given the recent inflation data with CPI and PPI, it would be interesting to see if Waller and Daly say anything special about their view for rate increases going forward. And then on the earnings front, you've got nothing really cooking for tomorrow. Now, real quickly, I want to touch on these numbers that happened today for Thursday. So we had an Empire State Manufacturing number that was very bad yesterday, did not look good. The Philly Fed one is slowing down a little bit, but still positive, which means growth, means optimism in manufacturing in the Philadelphia area. So that isn't horrible, but it's actually getting a little bit worse, right? We can see it drifting lower here, which is not a good sign. The other part here would be the unemployment claims came out. They came out lower than the previous reading, but higher than expectations. So I'll call that a net neutral. Your building permits slid, meaning fewer people looking to do add-ons, additions, expansions. You had housing starts. They increased from 1.29 million to 1.36. although the market expected more. Now, there was also, tons of other stuff, industrial production, natural gas storage. One thing I found interesting is you look at companies like KB Homes and Toll Brothers, for example, right? Let's go look at Home Builder ETF. Take a peek at this and you tell me if the housing market looks like it's struggling at all. You can get a sense from home builders if things are starting to look dire. Why? Because if markets are looking dire and interest rates are shooting up and they realize, hey, we're not going to be able to get buyers, then they'll stop building, right? They have tremendous analysts that work at KB Homes, Lennar, Toll Brothers. They're all very smart. And this graphic right here tells me that they're very optimistic about the market. They're very optimistic about housing, and they're still building and selling off a ton of them. Where it looks pretty good. I mean, we're almost near all-time highs yet again for home builders. You look at KBH. There's KB Homes, right? KB Homes, almost an all-time high, right? Going back to that 2005 spike. Let's go to Toll Brothers. Toll Brothers is well past their historic highs from that 2005 peak. All-time highs for Toll Brothers, and then like Lennar, and there's plenty of others, but I just showing you because I think it's interesting when you look at these home builders. Either they're fooling themselves or they know something, and it feels like they would know something. All right, so that's it. That's all I got for you for today. I had a couple questions, which I will. I apologize. I know some people had questions for me. I'll tell you, there's some I'm going to get to tomorrow. Will asked a couple questions on my YouTube channel. He put down below one of the videos is, how do fundamentals and price charts relate? Is it possible to come up with a methodology that would minimize the possibility of overlooking something? Actually, I can let you read it as opposed to me reading it. Overlooking something like the fact that the company has a lot of debt. If you join us tomorrow, I will answer that question as well as this one. Could you show or explain your opening range breakout strategy that you used today? That was from yesterday for Psych here. That's a tough one to pronounce, but that was on YouTube as well. If you have something you want me to do for tomorrow's show, put them down below a YouTube video, or you can email me at TraderMerlin@gmail.com. That's an easy way to do it. The YouTube video is usually where I go to first, and I just copy and paste the questions in here. So that's where I'll go to tonight or tomorrow morning when I get ready for the show. Until then, happy trading, everybody. Hope you have a fantastic Friday. I kind of feel like it's going to be a quiet day because there's not a lot of economic announcements or earnings. But you do have a nice shooting star, so hopefully on the open you guys can get a nice sell-off, take some profits, earn some money on the way down. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care.